Assalamualaikum. I hope so. You are doing fine. I am Dr. Muhammad Ali Rabani, and we are going to discuss the posterior compartment of the leg, the muscles. So these are going to be a lot of muscles. So please bear with me. We are going to discuss 7 muscles, and here let me give you an overview. This is a picture from Gray's Atlas. In the superior compartment, there are 3 muscles. The most superficial one is this. This is gastrocnemius, ending at Achilles tendon. Deep to it, there is again a big muscle, that is soleus, again ending in Achilles tendon. Then there is this long and slender muscle arising from femur all the way to the Achilles tendon. So this is plantaris. So simply speaking, the 3 muscles attaching to the calcaneal tendon or Achilles tendon are in the superficial compartment: gastrocnemius, soleus, plantaris. Then in the deep compartment, we will discuss 4 muscles. The popliteus, from tibia to femur, involved in unlocking of knee joint. Then tibialis posterior, flexor digitorum longus, and flexor hallucis longus. We will discuss their attachments, and we will trace their pathway to their insertions, and we will see their functions and innervation. By innervation, it's very simple that all of the muscles of the back will be supplied by posterior tibial nerve, and the superficial branches will be supplied directly by the tibial nerve, and the deep branches again will be supplied by the tibial nerve. So get that thing out of the way. So let us jump into the muscular attachments. Let us start with the gastrocnemius. Gastrocnemius will have 2 heads. They are originating from here. So let us dive here. So there will be medial head arising from the medial condyle of femur on the posterolateral aspect, and as you can see, it goes a little here onto the popliteal surface of the femur too. And if we draw the capsule here, it also arises from the capsule. Then the lateral head arises from the similar attachments on the lateral condyle. It's a little smaller than that, and goes to the popliteal surface a little too, and have attachment on the um, capsule of the knee joint, and it goes all the way back down to here. It gets attached to the posterior aspect of calcaneum. So this is the Achilles tendon. So let us see the muscle going from, as you can see here, you can see the whole of the muscle, the bigger head arising from the here, and the little head arising from the lateral condyle, joining together in the form the Achilles tendon, getting attached here. So from its attachment, you can see it has a pretty straightforward function. When this muscle contracts, it pulls the heel up, back of the heel up, so it points the toes down. So this is the muscle that is responsible for plantar flexion of the foot, and this is the muscle that is responsible for more powerful plantar flexion. And this is muscle is recruited when you have to run, when you have to jump, when you have to do something strenuous. So this muscle is not activated in everyday walking. Next up, we have soleus muscle. That's another large muscle. It has 2 heads, again arising from 2 different bones, that is tibia and fibula. So let's see. On the fibula, it arises from here. So on the fibula, it arises from back of head and upper part of the posterior surface. You may say upper fourth, 1/4 of the posterior surface of the shaft. Tibia. On tibia, it arises majorly from here. This is basically the soleal line. This is the soleal line, and the middle 1/3 of the medial border of tibia, and then there is an arch that is running between them. So here you can see, here is the arch that is running between them. So it arises from the fibula, the posterior part of head, the upper part of the posterior surface, soleal line, and the tendinous arch that is between them, and it gets merged with the same tendon and the same Achilles tendon. Here the gastrocnemius muscle has been cut, and it ends at the heel of the foot. The function is the same. When it contracts, it pulls the heel up and plantar flexes the foot. And the function difference between the gastrocnemius is that this is the muscle that is incorporated when we're walking in routinely without any strenuous exercises. So this is the workhorse of the calf. And another important function is that this muscle contains a large number of venous plexus. So when we walk, this contraction of the muscle helps push the blood up to the uh, up, and hence this is also called the peripheral heart of our leg or peripheral heart of our body. So we're done with these two muscles. Let us move to the next one, and this muscle is called plantaris. So this is a very small muscle with a very small belly and a very long tendon. It has a very interesting uh, shape. You can see it is arising from the supracondylar ridge of the femur above the attachment of the gastrocnemius. It runs behind the tendon and it runs between the gastrocnemius and soleus all the way down, and it gets attached. You can say it gets attached along with the Achilles tendon, or just attached to the medial aspect of it. So this is the one that is there. So technically speaking, it will have the same function. It will help in plantar flexion of the ankle, and it will help in flexion of the knee. So its function will include both plantar flexion of the ankle, as we saw here. So this is the muscle that will be responsible for it, and it will be responsible for flexion of the knee joint. So these are the movements that are suggested by its function, but as you can see, it is a very small muscle and the power generated by this muscle will be very negligible. So that actual function will be more focused for its proprioception function. So some says that it is rudimentary muscle and that is why it is not very much important. And there is another concept that it helps to sense very accurately the state of contraction of the joints at the different parts. So this is about the plantaris muscle. So we did the three muscles of the posterior compartment, superficial compartment. We just discussed the gastrocnemius, soleus, and the plantaris running between them. All three of them were doing plantar flexion, gastrocnemius in the forceful part, soleus in the routine part, plantaris majorly in the proprioception, and the function wise it had an additional function of flexion at the knee joint. All three of them were supplied by tibial nerve. Next on, we have the three muscles on the back, that are the digitorum longus, tibialis posterior, flexor hallucis longus, and one muscle above, that is popliteus. Let us start with the popliteus muscle right here. Let's see where it lies. So this is the muscle, its origin, popliteus muscle. It is attached to the lateral posterior surface of shaft of tibia, that is basically the insertion, and this is the origin. It is attached to the lateral surface of lateral condyle of femur. It's actually intracapsular. It is within the knee joint. So this is the origin, the intracapsular attachment on the lateral aspect of femur, femoral condyle, and here on the posterior aspect, a surface of shaft of tibia above soleus in this triangular area. So this is the insertion. So what is its function? Its function is very much importantly, it has some role in the knee flexion, but that's not the major thing that we have to talk about. So this is the flexion of the knee joint, and popliteus is having some role in that, but most importantly, this muscle is responsible for medially rotating tibia on femur, as shown here, or if you do opposite, it is responsible for lateral rotation of femur on tibia. Please remember both of them separately. So it is helping in rotate medial rotation of tibia on femur, anterior surface of the tibia goes medially, or in the reverse of it is that it can help in lateral rotation of femur on tibia. Both of these movements seen from a different perspective, mean the same thing anatomically, and that helps in unlocking of the knee joint. We can discuss this further in the knee joint lecture, and you will see that this after that the ligaments that are taut are somewhat relaxed, and after that flexion is possible. Next one on the list is tibialis posterior. We have tibialis posterior in the center, and one side digitorum, one side hallucis. So tibialis posterior in the center, this is the one. As you can see, this is the muscle that originates from both the bones. It has a very large origin from the lateral aspect of the posterior surface of tibia, including the atrocious membrane, and then this part, that is the late medial aspect of the fibula. So from both of them, it arises, and atrocious membrane between them goes behind the medial malleolus, and it has a very large insertion actually. As you can see, as it goes down, it gets majorly inserted into the navicular bone and other tarsal bones, like all three cuneiforms, the middle three metatarsals, and it has some insertion to other bones except talus. It does not get attached to the talus because it's on the top, and it may have some attachment to the cuboid too. So these are the different attachments, and this is the tibialis posterior. Superiorly, we talked about it has a origin from both the tibia and fibula, and atrocious membrane between them. Inferiorly, all of them, most of the tarsal bones except talus. And if you can infer from this location, so this is the muscle that will be responsible as it going behind the so it will be responsible for plantar flexion, and in addition to the plantar flexion, this will be responsible for inversion. All of the muscles that are passing behind the malleolus will be responsible for plantar flexion. So all the muscles of the posterior compartment, all of the muscles of the posterior compartment will be responsible for plantar flexion, and this is the inversion. When it contracts, the medial border goes up, so this is, and the sole directs medially, so this is called the inversion. So this is tibialis posterior muscle, and apart from that, it also attaching to the medial border. So it is going to it is going to also pull up the medial longitudinal arch. So these are these three functions. So it will be responsible for plantar flexion, inversion at subtalar joint, plantar flexion at ankle joint, and supporting and pulling up the medial longitudinal arch. So this is the tibialis posterior muscle. Okay, next we will come to the two muscles, the one that is originating from the medial aspect, and that's very interesting thing, that is one is originating from the medial aspect and going to the lateral aspect, and the vice versa is true for the other one. This is the flexor digitorum longus. This is originating from the posterior aspect of tibia. As you can see, uh, it is arising from the upper two-third of the medial part of posterior surface of tibia. So it is arising from here, uh, between the soleal line for the soleus muscle and tibialis posterior. It is arising from between them, and from there, after originating, it here is the body. Let us show the body. It goes behind the malleolus. As you can see, it goes above the this is the part, this is called sustentaculum tali. This part, this projection of the bone, it goes, let's see, go further, and it gets attached to the distal interphalangeal bones, distal phalanges. So here these are the bones that are getting attached here, the distal phalanges. So this is the tibialis posterior, sorry, this is the ex flexor digitorum longus muscle. Let me revise this muscle again. So this muscle was originating from the posterior aspect of the medial the medial part of the posterior aspect of tibia in the upper part. This muscle, and then like here. Then it was going behind the medial malleolus, then it was passing medial to the sustentaculum tali. This projection is called the sustentaculum tali. It is passing medial to it, and then it was spread out. Its direction was little changed by this muscle here, flexor hallucis brevis. Sorry, uh, like this muscle, quadratus plantae muscle, that gets attached to this muscle and changes its direction a little, and then the four tendons get attached to the four lateral toes on the distal phalanx, and thus they are responsible for the flexion of the toes at distal interphalangeal joint, and by extension they can contract also the proximal joints too, proximal interphalangeal joint, metacarpophalangeal joints, and by extension also when all of this occur together, this can also help in flexion of the ankle joint, that is the plantar flexion. So this is about the flexor digitorum longus muscle, and this brings us to the next muscle, that is the flexor hallucis muscle. Let us remove this muscle and add the yes, flexor hallucis muscle. This is the muscle that arises from the most of the length of the fibula on the posterior aspect, the lower 3/4 of the posterior aspect of fibula, and some part of the interosseous membrane too. And from there, it goes medially, passes behind this muscle, this medial malleolus, goes beneath sustentaculum tali, goes between these sesamoid bones, and gets attached to the distal phalanx of the big toe, and gets attached to the distal phalanx of the big toe. So let me repeat, it arises from the most of the length of the fibula, lower 3/4, behind medial malleolus, beneath sustentaculum tali, and gets inserted here on the distal phalanx of the big toe. So what does this muscle do? This muscle, the function wise, it's very much similar to that of the um, flexor hallucis. So it will help in the flexion of the big toe. So mostly it will function on the interphalangeal joint, but it will have indirect function on the metacarpophalangeal joint too. And through that, when the effect is transmitted proximally, it is will also help in the plantar flexion of the ankle. So this is about these muscles, and let me discuss one more thing. Okay. So we have discussed the three deep muscles. We discussed plantar popliteus, involved in lateral rotation of femur or medial rotation of tibia, involved in unlocking of knee joint. Then we talked about this tibialis posterior, arising from both fibula and tibia, um, and getting inserted into a large number of bones, including navicular, three cuneiforms, three base of the metatarsals. This was involved in plantar flexion, inversion, and supporting the medial arch. Then we talked about this extensor digitorum, flexor digitorum, arising from tibia mostly between soleus and tibialis posterior, going back and going to be inserted into the distal phalanges of the lateral four toes. Then we talked about flexor hallucis, originating from fibula, going behind the and getting inserted into the distal phalanx. Two things more that we'll like to discuss: relation with the sustentaculum tali. Flexor hallucis was passing just underneath it. Tibialis posterior was passing just above it, and extensor digitorum was passing medial to it. So that's an important question to be asked. And one more interesting thing is uh, the muscles go in a crisscross manner. Like flexor digitorum longus arises all the way on the medial part of the posterior calf and goes laterally. So you see this muscle, flexor digitorum longus, it as it goes down, it continues to be shifted medially, laterally. Sorry, It continues to shift laterally. It crosses the posterior tibial tendon within the posterior compartment, and after passing through flexor retinaculum, it crosses the flexor hallucis tendon in the plantar surface of the foot. Those things we will be discussing them in those respective part too. And this migrating from medial to lateral aspect will become also important relation, because while crossing from medial to lateral aspect, that will also cross the tibial nerve and posterior tibial artery. So this is about that. Let me quickly summarize the muscles. The three muscles on the superficial compartment will include gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris. All three of them will do plantar flexion. Only plantaris will do flexion at knee. All three of them will be supplied by tibial nerve. The deep muscle include popliteus, and popliteus will do unlocking by laterally rotating the femur or medially rotating the tibia. And then there are three muscles: flexor tutorum longus, tibialis posterior, extensor flexor hallucis. All three of them will do plantar flexion. Flexor tibialis posterior will be most important. All three of them will do inversion. Tibial flexor digitorum longus will flex the lateral four digits. Flexor hallucis longus will flex the big toe. All of the muscle will be supplied by tibial nerve. That is it. That's about the muscles of the posterior compartment. I'm attaching the pictures of the Snell's anatomy here. If you want to pause the video and go to the original insertion, if you want to go to the further detail, I'll suggest Vishram Singh, B.D. Churasia, and the father of all Grey's Anatomy. Thank you so much for your listening. If you have any suggestions, questions, or feedback, please let me know. Contact us on these links and numbers. I will help you, and keep following for the next lectures of the arteries of the posterior compartment and nerves of the posterior compartment.